It's 10 o'clock. This is Sky News at 10, our top story. Israel's Prime Minister heads to the White House for a hastily arranged summit with President Trump over a proposed Gaza ceasefire. US officials talk up the prospect of a deal. We understand only one issue between Israel and Hamas remains unresolved. Also tonight, the Post Office inquiry finds at least 13 people may have taken their own lives over accusations of wrongdoing. Greg Wallace says he will not go quietly following reports that he's been sacked from MasterChef. France's President Macron promises closer cooperation on cross-channel migrants as he attends a lavish dinner on his state visit to the UK. Counter-terror police accuse Russia of ordering a sabotage attack in London as 3 men are convicted of arson. And we'll take a first look at tomorrow's front pages. That's in our press preview from 10:30 right through to midnight. Hello there, good evening. We begin tonight with breaking news on the efforts to secure a ceasefire in Gaza. Israel's Prime Minister has just arrived at the White House for a meeting with President Trump, as US officials suggest that a Gaza ceasefire deal could be close. It is the second meeting between the two men in as many days. Well, Sky News understands that there now remains only one unresolved issue between Israel and Hamas, that of the status and presence of the IDF troops inside Gaza. Let's go straight to the White House then, and our US correspondent Mark Stone. Another meeting there tonight then, Mark. Some issues of contention between Hamas and Israel reaching a resolution. So what are you learning tonight?
Well, it's just gone 5 o'clock in the afternoon here in Washington, and I do think that there is a sense of momentum tonight here, a momentum for potentially a new ceasefire in Gaza. We saw Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu arriving here a short time ago. He drove from Blair House, the presidential guest house where he is staying, literally just about 50 metres over to the White House, and he's currently in a meeting with President Trump in the West Wing. What I'm told, having spoken to two sources very close to the negotiations that are ongoing in Qatar, is that of the 3 key unresolved issues, only one now remains unresolved. The two sides, Israel and Hamas, have bridged their divide on 2 of those issues. One of them is the issue of humanitarian aid being distributed in Gaza. You'll remember that for the past few months, it has been the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, GHF, that has been controlling the aid distribution in Gaza. This is an organization which is run and funded by the Americans and by the Israelis, and it has been the center of a huge amount of controversy and many deaths involving Palestinians as they try to get food. Now, what we understand is that as part of this ceasefire deal, the GHF will no longer be allowed to operate in much of Gaza from where the IDF withdraws. Instead, it will be the UN, I'm told, and other humanitarian organizations who will take up that work, much in the same way that they did before the GHF got involved. That is the first issue, humanitarian issue, that has been bridged, has been resolved. The second is the issue of the 60-day ceasefire. From a Hamas perspective, their real concern has been that after 60 days, that Israel would simply resume its war in Gaza. Now, that issue, too, has now been resolved because President Trump has issued a personal commitment to Hamas that he will ensure that Israel does not restart the war after 60 days. That commitment was delivered to Hamas by Bashar al-Baba, who is a man who's emerged as a key figure in these negotiations, a Palestinian-American who helped Trump to re-election in Michigan last year, who is now in Doha running these, well, not running, but part of these negotiations. He issued the commitment from Trump to Hamas on that issue. As you say, Anna, the one unresolved issue, and it is absolutely key, is the presence of the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, in Gaza. Where do they redeploy to? Do they pull out altogether? Hamas would like them to completely pull out. That, I don't think, is going to happen. So there is still a chance that all of this could collapse. But behind the scenes, there is a huge amount of momentum. And crucially, the two sides have agreed on a process of hostage release and prisoner release, Palestinian prisoners from Israel, hostages from Israeli hostages from Gaza as well. So a lot of momentum and a very important meeting ongoing now at the White House.
Indeed, so Mark, keeping us abreast of the very latest. I'm sure you'll bring us more later. Mark, thank you very much indeed. Well, let's stay with the States and more breaking news to bring you. And this is from Texas. After that severe flooding, the Texas Governor, Greg Abbott, has said that the number of missing has risen dramatically. 161 people are still unaccounted for. Some 109 people are dead, we understand. And 5 children from Camp Mystic and 1 counsellor are also still missing. He's just been speaking.
It's about our communities, and we'll be with them every step of the way. We'll take a few questions.
Governor, Monday happened.
Said they didn't receive any emergency alerts on their phone. Are you going to have that conversation with the city manager? I asked this because we're here today for the conference. He really didn't respond to our questions related to how long it took him to evacuate people. Can you speak on that?
So obviously the local officials who were on the ground at the time would know the most about that. But let's talk about it in this way. That's going to be one of the issues that we begin to address in less than 2 weeks in the state legislature. We're going to address every aspect of this storm to make sure that we're going to have in place the systems that are needed to prevent deadly flooding events like this in the future.
Governor?
When Monday happened, Governor, you led an investigation. Are you going to ask for investigation in this case?
So we say when Harvey happened?
No, Uvalde.
Oh,
Uvalde happened.
Yeah.
And it was gross negligence back then. Now this happened, and the death toll is enormous. Are you going to ask for investigation? Who is to blame here?
Right. So I'm going to talk about 2 different things. The first part of your question, and that is an investigation. We know a special session's coming in about 10 days. That's where, I would say, where it begins. Candidly, those investigations will begin by both the House and Senate before we go into session. So probably beginning later this week or the early part of next week, there'll be committees formed that are already kind of working on ideas about ways to address this. Second part of your question needs to be addressed. You ask, and I'm going to use your words, who's to blame? Know this, that's the word choice of losers. Let me explain one thing about Texas, and that is Texas, every square inch of our state cares about football. You could be in Hunt, Texas, Huntsville, Texas, Houston, Texas, any size community, they care about football. High school, Friday night lights, college football, or pro. And know this, every football team makes mistakes. The losing teams are the ones that try to point out who's to blame. The championship teams are the ones that say, don't worry about it, man, we got this. We're going to make sure that we go score again, that we're going to win this game. The way winners talk is not to point fingers. They talk about solutions. What Texas is all about is solutions. In fact, I want to read you something that I received last night that's worth emphasizing to put this in context. Tragedy has come. That part is done. What we do now, who we are now, that's what the story is still being written. Let it be one of grace, of grit, of fierce love in the face of grief. Let it be the kind of story that proves that the hill country may flood, but it does not fail. Say what you will about Texas, but when the rivers rise, so do we. Not with blame, not with bitterness, but with boots on the ground, arms around strangers, and hearts wide open. That's the Texas I know, and that's the America that I believe in. What this person wrote is what I know is true for all Texans and what we will achieve every single day.
So Governor Greg Abbott facing some difficult questions about their handling of this. The Republican Party trying to shake off criticism of its preparedness as that figure of the numbers who are missing has risen to at least 161. They always said they wouldn't necessarily know how many people were camping along the Guadalupe River at the time of that severe flooding last Friday. So 161 at least now missing, and 109 the figure for those who have died. 5 campers and 1 counsellor, as they put it, from Camp Mystic, this Christian camp where 700 girls were residing at the time, are also still missing. The search continues for them. Now, the scale of the human suffering caused by the post office scandal was laid bare today, with the chair of the official inquiry revealing that 13 people are believed to have taken their own lives because of it. And Sir Win Williams said at least 59 others had contemplated suicide after sub-postmasters were wrongly accused and prosecuted because of a faulty IT system. Sir Win said the disastrous human toll came despite the Post Office knowing that the Horizon system was flawed even before it was rolled out. Sky's Adele Robinson has this report.
It should haunt the people who did it.
The Post Office destroyed Seema's life.
It's like keeping you alive, but cutting you small, giving you a wound till you die. There's more horrible way to kill somebody.
Convicted and imprisoned while pregnant, 20 years on, the first official inquiry report into the scandal is delivered.
It's been a really frightening, angry journey, but it's all going in the right direction now.
A direction focused on what was described as the disastrous impact of what happened to thousands of victims, with 13 people believed to have taken their lives because of it.
The picture which has emerged and which is described in my report is profoundly disturbing. In summary, what does that picture reveal? Many thousands of people have suffered serious financial detriment, and for a sizable proportion, that detriment subsists. Many people have, inevitably, suffered emotional turmoil and significant stress.
His report described wholly unacceptable behaviour by the Post Office and Fujitsu, concluded that Post Office bosses maintained a fiction that the faulty Horizon system was always accurate, and criticised redress schemes for being flawed.
You still don't have the money that you're entitled to.
I know. And this is our own money we're asking for. All the suggestions are very good, but the government need to follow and implement that.
The report, however, said there had been a failure to grasp formidable difficulties in delivering redress.
We heard the rather stark figures that 13 people are believed to have taken their own lives as a result of what happened. What would you say to them for the part that the Post Office played in that?
I mean, look, some of the human impacts, apology is not sufficient. The harm that the Post Office has caused to people over decades is just completely unacceptable. It's horrific, is the only way to describe it. So, I am genuinely really, really sorry, but that's not enough.
Sir Win also called for urgent action to deliver full and fair redress. And he made 19 recommendations, but of course none of them are legally binding. So the bigger, more important issue now is exactly what the Post Office, the government and Fujitsu plan to deliver in response, and how quickly they do it.
To be clear, I am very sympathetic to Sir Win's 19 recommendations today.
The government will respond after carefully considering them and have said they're pushing Fujitsu to act on compensation.
There is no doubt that Fujitsu has a moral obligation to contribute towards the costs of this scandal. We have underlined that in face-to-face meetings to them. To be fair, they have accepted that they have that moral obligation. We have made clear to them that we think they should make an interim payment.
Among the recommendations, redress for the family members of victims worst affected by the scandal. The daughters of Elaine Hood, convicted in 2003, welcome it.
It's validating for all those years, for every one of us that's suffered because of what we've been through with our parents. I'd say it's validating.
Yeah, it's very validating, yeah.
It's not closure, though, is it?
No.
No.
Closure will be prosecutions at the end and real justice.
Fujitsu, meanwhile, reiterated their apology for their role in victims' suffering, said they're considering recommendations and are engaged with government on contributing to compensation. They, the Post Office and government, have until October to respond to the report.
That gives them their summer holiday to work on it, doesn't it, you know? For goodness sake, get on with it and get on with paying people, because we are all sick to the back teeth of it.
Well, Adele is here for us, and the desperation of these people laid bare today, lives utterly upended.
Yeah, I mentioned there in my report 13 people believed to have taken their own lives as a result of the scandal. 59 people contemplated it, according to the inquiry report. A further 10 tried, some on more than one occasion. The inquiry report talks about self-harm, alcohol addiction. It talks about these people being ostracised, bankrupted, losing their homes, suffering from psychiatric illnesses. Sir Wynne Williams says that the list goes on in suffering. He described it as extremely wide-ranging. You heard about the case of Martin Griffith, the man who walked in front of a bus in 2013, aged just 59 as a result. And we heard about another case he mentioned in his report called a woman called Jacqueline MacDonald, who made 256 calls to the Horizon Help Desk before she had an audit. She ended up in prison, missing her daughter's 18th birthday. But what it also gave us, which was rather unexpected, was a flavour of what's to come. So Sir Wynne Williams will be delivering his final report either towards the end of this year or next year, and that will be looking at the who knew what and when. Today, the first few paragraphs of this report gave us a bit of who knew what. He specifically mentioned Fujitsu and Post Office as knowing about faults, or some employees knowing about faults in their software. So I think from what he's saying in this report, that the sentences he's using, if that's anything to go by, the report that we can expect either in a few months' time or next year will be really, really rather damning.
Adele, thank you very much indeed. Now, the French president has told the British Parliament that the UK and France have a duty to tackle illegal migration, promising concrete, effective and lasting cooperation over the issue. Emmanuel Macron and his wife are on a state visit to the UK, and tomorrow Mr Macron will get down to work with talks in Downing Street aimed at stopping small boats in the Channel. But today was all about the pomp and the ceremony, as our royal correspondent Rhiannon Mills reports.
The grandeur of this state banquet was certainly one way to make the French feel like we've made every effort, as the royal procession, including the Princess of Wales, made their way to their seats. The King first to speak with warm words and a reminder of why this friendship really matters.
A millennium ago, this castle was built to guard the western approach to London. Today, our two countries face a multitude of more complex threats, emanating from multiple directions. As friends and as allies, we face them together. These challenges know no borders. No fortress can protect us against them this time. Of course, we would not be neighbours if we did not have our differences.
And yes, he did mention that most difficult of subjects.
Our security services and police will go further still to protect us against the profound challenges of terrorism, organised crime, cyber attacks, and, of course, irregular migration.
All, of course, in the spirit of friendliness that was clear throughout the day. The Prince and Princess of Wales deliberately sent to collect the President and his wife. The first sign this visit was something special. Arriving in Windsor, an old friend was waiting for them. The bond clear between the King and Macron, with an affectionate hand, not once, but twice. Sorry, 3 times. As both couples appeared deep in conversation, there was plenty more to say as they made their way to their carriages. For a spectacle that only the UK can deliver, their procession just inches away from the crowds as they made their way to Windsor Castle. A guard of honour was waiting for the President to inspect the historic setting underpinning the current importance of our military ties. Macron is, of course, known for being tactile, The interactions felt more gentle here, not a political power play for the cameras. That was being reserved for elsewhere. With the closeness between them all, you'd almost think that the royals had personally invited the Macrons. But in the end, it's down to number 10 who comes here for a state visit. And with all the reports around immigration and the small boats issue, this visit does come at a really important time, with hopes that maybe a little bit of soft power may help with those difficult conversations that will lie ahead. With Macron whisked into London, we had the first obvious display of the political significance as he addressed both houses of Parliament.
France and the United Kingdom have a shared responsibility to address irregular migration with humanity, solidarity and firmness. The decisions that we will take at our bilateral summit will respond to our aims for cooperation and tangible results on these major issues.
There is always pressure to deliver the perfect welcome. The French delegation's bags, the only faux pas that we saw so far. As the king appeared to enjoy playing his part, Macron not the only one who'll be delighted to hear him describe this as not just a friendship, but more like family. Rhiannon Mills, Sky News at Windsor Castle.
The presenter, Greg Wallace, has hit out at the BBC, insisting he will not go quietly following reports he's been sacked from MasterChef. He was speaking ahead of the publication of an investigation to allegations about his conduct. Mr Wallace claims the report clears him of the most serious allegations of inappropriate sexual comments and behaviour. Well, tonight, BBC News claimed that 50 more people have come forward with fresh claims about the presenter, which he says amounts to uncorroborated tittle-tattle. Well, our correspondent Amelia Harper has more. Mr Wallace has certainly come out fighting, but when do we see the actual report?
Well, we haven't seen it, of course, and it's due to be coming out in the next couple of days. It could potentially be as late as next week. But what Greg Wallace has done today is he's really tried to come out ahead of those, the findings of that report. And he's really issued some fiery comments in response to reports that he has been sacked by MasterChef, which is the BBC's flagship cooking programme. And in a statement on Instagram, he said he would not be going quietly. Now, Greg Wallace was being investigated over historical allegations into misconduct during the period that he was working for the BBC. This was an investigation that was commissioned by Banijay UK, which is the production company that makes MasterChef, and the conclusions to that report were meant to be coming in the next couple of days. So Greg Wallace trying to get his side of the story out ahead of that. And as you say, it comes as 50 more people have approached the BBC with fresh claims about misconduct, claims that Greg Wallace denies. And if we have a look at some of the detail in his statement, he said he wanted to speak out ahead of the publication of this report. He said, "I will not go quietly. I will not be cancelled for convenience. I was tried by media and hung out to dry well before the facts were established. The full story of this incredible injustice must be told, and it's very much a matter of public interest." Now, he says in his statement that he admits that the report found him primarily guilty of inappropriate language between 2005 and 2018. He said he had been cleared. We obviously haven't seen this yet, but he says he's been cleared of the most serious allegations against him. In the statement, he was alluding to the fact that he was hired to be this cheeky greengrocer role, you know, in his role as hosting MasterChef. But he's saying his personality is now seen as part of the problem. The BBC has said that they won't be responding to his words, really, until the conclusion of the report, and the same for Banijay UK. But we'll wait for the next couple of days to see what comes of that.
Indeed so. Amelia, thank you. 3 men have been found guilty of an arson attack on a London warehouse which police say was orchestrated by the Russian Wagner paramilitary group. Detectives say the attack in Leighton last March is a clear example of an organisation linked to the Russian state carrying out serious criminal activity in the UK. Russia has denied any involvement. Sajid Chowdhury has more.
They thought this was a straightforward criminal job. But a court has found this attack was orchestrated by the Russian-backed Wagner Group. Today, Nikojo Mensah, Jakim Rose and Agnias Asmina were found guilty of arson. The jury had been shown footage of the men lighting the fire at a warehouse in the Cromwell Industrial Estate in East London. Inside were goods destined for Ukraine, including Starlink satellite equipment. Police say these two men had organised the attack. Dylan Earl and Jake Reeves had already admitted offences on behalf of a foreign state. Police say Earl was acting for the Wagner Group, a Russian paramilitary unit with close ties to the Kremlin. In messages shown in court, a user widely believed to be a bot instructs him to watch a television spy drama to learn how the group works.
I don't think they particularly cared about, they were more interested in the disposability of these individuals because it meant that, they would take risks. And if it goes wrong, it still has a psychological effect, right? Ultimately, if the fire goes wrong, somebody's caught, and they're sort of low level, still it creates this sort of psychological effect that there's a shadow hand moving through Europe or through London, threatening the security of the state.
The Metropolitan Police says the ringleaders willingly acted as hostile agents on behalf of the Russian state.
I have been surprised by the significant increase in threats from foreign states in the United Kingdom, yes.
And are state threats putting pressure on your resources at all?
Yes, of course.
Russia says it's never engaged in sabotage activities against the United Kingdom and describes this trial as politically motivated. Its embassy in London told Sky News the malevolent campaign of anti-Russian scaremongering deployed by the British authorities and some complicit media serves predominantly domestic purposes, in particular with a view to desensitising the electorate to worsening economic problems and military spending hikes. Russia is not at war with the UK, but threats attributed to it are certainly being felt here. Sadia Chowdhury, Sky News.
The UK's official budget forecaster has warned that the country's public finances are in a relatively vulnerable position with an eroded capacity to respond to future shocks in the economy. The Office for Budget Responsibility says ministerial U-turns, including on winter fuel payments, have contributed to a rise in government debt. A fast-moving wildfire fanned by 70-mile-an-hour gale-force winds raged on the outskirts of France's second-largest city of Marseille today. Authorities now say the blaze is under control, but not completely out. Residents were advised to remain indoors and close windows and shutters. The city's airport has now reopened. Spanish police say they believe Liverpool forward Diogo Jota was driving the car which crashed in northwest Spain last week, killing him and his brother. Police say they are investigating whether excessive speed also contributed to the crash. Resident doctors in England, previously referred to as junior doctors, have voted in favour of strike action over pay. They were awarded a 5.4% pay increase, but the British Medical Association has threatened industrial action, claiming the increase does not account for historical pay freezes. The union is calling for an increase of 29.2% to bring salaries back to full pay restoration. Now, tributes have poured in for Lord Tebbit, the former Conservative cabinet minister and one of Margaret Thatcher's most loyal supporters, who has died at the age of 94. He was a leading political voice throughout the 1980s, taking a robust stance on unemployment and the trade union movement. He was also a survivor of an IRA bombing in 1984, which left his wife paralysed. Rishi Sunak said he was a titan of Conservative politics. David Cameron said they don't make him like Norman anymore. Here's our correspondent, our chief political correspondent, John Craig, who's been taking a look back at his life and career.
Thank you to Norman Tebbit.
Praise from Margaret Thatcher after her 1987 election victory, when he was Tory chairman. Fiercely proud of his working-class roots, Norman Tebbit was idolised by the Tory right and loathed by the left. After becoming an MP in 1970, he became an enemy of the trade unions over strikes and the closed shop. Labour's Michael Foot called him a semi-house-trained polecat. And during riots, he said of his unemployed father, he didn't riot, he got on his bike and looked for work. In her 1981 reshuffle, in which she purged cabinet wets and brought in true believers, Mrs Thatcher made him employment secretary. With tough anti-strike laws, he became the scourge of the unions. He revelled in his hard man image and his Chingford skinhead nickname.
Really, Norman, you are a sight.
Even enjoying being ridiculed on TV's spitting image. After the Tories' 1983 landslide, he became Trade and Industry Secretary after another Thatcher favourite, Cecil Parkinson, quit in a sex scandal. But within months, his life was torn apart by an IRA bomb at the 1984 Tory conference in Brighton. He and wife Margaret were trapped in the rubble, and his dramatic rescue was broadcast live on TV. He spent 3 months in hospital and his wife was left paralysed. He returned to the cabinet as party chairman and, despite clashes with another Thatcher favourite, Lord Young, masterminded another Tory victory. After leaving the cabinet, he still made news, causing a huge row with cricket test comments about Asian supporters. And when John Major succeeded Mrs Thatcher as PM, Tebbit bitterly opposed the Maastricht Treaty.
Do you want other countries interfering in our immigration controls, in our foreign policy? Do you want to be citizens of a European Union?
The Tory faithful loved it. After quitting as an MP in 1992, he was awarded a peerage and continued his Eurosceptic fight in the Lords, attacking Theresa May's Brexit deal.
Why is everybody here today so excited about an amendment which looks after the foreigners and not the British?
But for the Brighton bomb, Norman Tebbit might have reached the very top of British politics by succeeding Margaret Thatcher as Prime Minister in 1990. But he stepped back from the front line to care for his wife, who died in 2020. He never forgave the IRA. John Craig, Sky News.
Well, that was Sky News at 10. Coming up, we will take a first look at tomorrow's newspapers in the press preview tonight, joined by the broadcaster and commentator, Ali Mirage, and the journalist and broadcaster, Jenny Kleeman. Lovely to see both of you. Among these stories, we'll be discussing this on the front page of the Metro. 13 suicides linked to the post office scandal. That and more stories of the day, too, when we come back.